we've got a hoe table. And I'm like, I don't really want to be like, all the whores are here. All the whores, Jesus, here they are. No.
You know, Jesus loved whores too. He was down with the prostitutes. He was down with everybody, man. Jesus loves the sinners. Come sit with me.
Welcome back, one and all. Thank you for listening. If you're new here, this is the Totally Wholesome, Not Dirty podcast, and I'm your host, Molly Stewart. We define wholesome a little differently here, and my guests span everywhere from the adult industry to the vanilla side of humanity. If you haven't, please consider subscribing. Word of mouth is what helps this podcast grow. So share with a friend, leave a comment, download an episode, or anything you can to help with the algorithm. I release episodes every Monday, and if you're subscribed, you'll never miss an episode. You don't want to miss out on all the crazy conversations that evolve here. But that's enough from me, and let's get to today's guest.
And I'm sorry if using the Australian accent in the way that I do is offensive to you.
No, I love it. It's
Okay,
cool.
Just especially like when I first started dating my man, like I couldn't do anything Australian accent to save my life. It all just sounded like really bad British. And funny, like when I took him to Michigan to go hang out with my dad and brother and stuff, like we went to a shooting range because my dad and brother are like, oh, Australian, let's get him shooting the range, you know? And so he's talking and getting signed in for his equipment, and it's Michigan, so they've never heard any accent besides maybe the Deep South and redneck. So she was like, oh, are you from Britain? Are you from the UK? He's just like, yes, I am. Like, what are you gonna tell him? Oh, God. Anyway, welcome back to the Totally Wholesome, Not Dirty podcast. I'm your host, Molly Stewart, and Laura is in the States. So luckily, today I have joining me Kiara Edwards.
Hi. I'm so excited to be here.
Yeah, it's so fun.
Yeah.
And thank you to my man for providing, once again, these microphones, because otherwise this podcast would not be possible. And so as far as performing, how long have you been doing it?
So I have been in the adult industry 10 years this year.
Oh.
Yes, and I've been doing content since 2018.
Okay.
And I shot my first movie in the States in 2019.
Okay, very cool. So as far as like being in the industry, how did you start and get into that? Were you kind of like cam model type stuff?
No,
or?
so I got my first job behind a bar at a strip club.
Oh.
And I loved every part of it. I remember sitting there and I was like, their makeup, their costumes, the way they move their bodies.
Yeah.
So I got smashed one time and was like, I called my boss and like, yo, I'm stripping next week. And he was like, I don't think this is a great idea.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm doing it. And I've 10 years going
Yeah.
strong, and it was probably one of the best decisions I made for me at that time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So as far as like stripping, because that is its own whole thing. Like I actually did a little bit of that before I found webcamming, and stripping was like not for me, especially at the time, because I was so ashamed of my body for one, and just like that whole environment I think was very like too intense and in person. So how do you find the difference? Like did you prefer stripping to content creation, or is it just kind of too different to?
Oh, it's so different. So I've always loved the performing aspect of it. So I think when I strip, I do like proper shows. So I do like theme shows with costumes. They're usually a runoff of one of the scenes that I've done.
Yeah.
And it's a lot less, it's over so much quicker when you dance.
Yeah.
So it's like you're on stage
You're off
15
stage.
minutes instead of 15 hours in a studio going over the same line.
Oh my God. That's like one of the worst things, because I don't know how does like dialogue and stuff come to you? Is it pretty easy for you to do dialogue and stuff, or?
To read anything that's been written for me, I'm atrocious. I'm a very like go with the flow, wing it in the moment, and I'll make it up as I go. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
How about you?
So I can read the script. The problem when I was shooting mainstream is the scripts themselves, because they're just, I feel like so many of the scenes get like so recycled, or just the things you say are just even written in a way that I'm like, people don't talk like this. And so in most instances, I'm just like, I feel like I can say the same thing, but better, like in a way that like people would normally talk. Like, what was your first experience like on a mainstream set like for you? Because honestly, a lot of people I talk to, like some of them like don't even remember. They're just like, oh, I've done like so many scenes or whatever, or like, oh, it wasn't that much different than, you know, whatever I was doing before.
Oh, I was so nervous, and I remember rocking up to set and they handed me this douche, and I remember like sitting in the bathroom shaking, and I'm like, what the do I do with this?
Ladies and gentlemen, we are back to our first douche stories. This is like a new segment here on the Totally Wholesome Not Dirty podcast, because the amount of women is like, a douche? For what? Like, I remember like, because I've talked about this too, is like, I definitely didn't know how to do it. So I'm like, okay, clearly the bottle doesn't go first, so this top part must go first. So I shove that in and I'm squeezing, nothing's happening. I'm like, oh, what am I doing wrong? I pull it out with like my pussy on it, and I would bring it to Holly Randall. I'm like, what do I do? She's like, you have to pull it out till it clicks. Oh, okay. And then you're squirting that shit up there, and it's like, and then I think, you know, just busy day on set, and it was like my first scene, so some of Mind Geeks, people were actually there to like meet me and stuff, so I think it was just very hectic, and I wasn't told that you shouldn't use the stuff that's inside of it.
Yeah.
Which, since this audience is primarily men, and you've probably never used a douche in your life, and if you have, I mean, why? The liquid that's typically in there, it burns.
Yeah. Oh, yes.
And then it dries you out. So I squirt the stuff up and it's like burning, which I'm like, I don't know if that's correct. And then there's like no natural lubrication because it just dries it out. So it's like, then you're at a point where it's like, well, of course you need lube. But like, I felt weird asking for lube, so I didn't ask for lube. And so the finger was going in. I'm like, I don't know what's happening.
No.
It was a great like shoot, and it was fun, but definitely douching was horrible, and I don't know why people have to do it for the most part. Like I feel like maybe there's some instances with like maybe if you're on your period, because we often have to shoot when we're on our period, which isn't very fun. It's well, at least I guess for some people they say they prefer it, but not me, not for me. But it's like you're already so dry, and then it's like, well, I can understand maybe the douching to help get some of the blood out and at least make the insertion of sponges easier. But I don't know, douching, because it's like, what's wrong with how a pussy smells? Like, for the most part, as long as you take care of yourself and you're hygienic and clean, pussy has a little bit of a smell, but it's just the smell of pussy. And if you don't like the smell of pussy, then you should not be face first in one, let me tell you. Because...
See, when I first went to the States, obviously, like, people don't put into, like, they don't think about it. But because everyone's so different, like, all their, like, bacteria, everything. So for me going over there, I had to every scene because my pH was so off consistently until I found boric acid.
Oh, that's amazing.
But actually, I feel like girl, you don't get as many issues. There's not as many, maybe there's not as much spit. I don't know.
I don't really know. I know that for a while shooting like with mainstream stuff, it's like for Girl, which is the only thing I've shot mainstream, is that it's scissoring. How do you feel about scissoring?
It looks pretty on camera sometimes, but like it's a mission to get into, and it's a mission to do, and there's not that much.
And it's not like, I mean, let's be honest, breaking some fourth wall shit here. Like, it's like, when are you really getting off from scissoring? Unless you can actually scissor properly, where you're like grinding and thrusting and clenching your legs in such a way that maybe you can, but that's not what they want to see on camera. They want to see you like, whoa, I love being here. It's not. Like, if there are any women watching who love having sex with women. Let me know if there is a way that you enjoy scissoring, and if it's something that you do actually do in your day-to-day kind of sexual
Lives.
proclivities and stuff like that. Because for me personally, like, I love having sex with women, but I even prefer eating pussy typically to having other women eat my pussy. Like, and I think that also probably kind of depends on who you're shooting with as well, because I feel like a lot of the times, not a lot of the times, but maybe a good 50%, there are women who are definitely not into women who are shooting girl, and you can tell by the way that they definitely like lick your inner thigh instead of your clit. I'm like, you have one of these, you know where it is. Come on, I just made you get off. What are we doing? So no, it's all give, no receive. What's going on? Laura.
Hi.
Are you excited?
Yes.
Tell me why you're excited, Laura.
We have all the things coming.
We have all the things coming. Do you want to tell this lovely audience what things we have coming? Because I am very, very titillated.
Well, can I tell you the first thing that's happening? We're going to Bali.
We are going to Bali.
We're going to go to like the tropical nature. Beautiful island. I'm so excited.
So excited. And we are going to be shooting 4 episodes there, which will take us all the way through November. Well, I am in Australia, and unfortunately we'll be separated again, but we get to watch each other every week.
Separated,
and I'll make love
but
to
not.
you in my mind.
We're going to use our toys.
And coming up in the new year, January 4 through 7, we will be at the AVN Expo show. We have a booth for the podcast and for me and my merch, so you can come and hang out and meet Laura and I. So
come
get excited for that. It's January 4 through 7 at Resorts World in beautiful Las Vegas. So we hope to be able to see you guys there. We are going to be having meet and greets, live interviews. We are going to have merch. All the merch that you guys have been waiting and wanting to see and buy, it's going to be available first at the convention. And then we're figuring out some new things for the new year as well. So stay tuned, and we hope that you guys will join us at the convention.
Get your tickets.
Show. Get your tickets. There will be a ticket in all of the descriptions, whether you're watching on YouTube or whether you're listening on an audio platform. Just check the description for where you can get your tickets. We hope to see you there.
Yeah.
Mwah.
Do you know the other thing of Go that makes no sense to me? The double-ended dildos. Like, you're in these weird positions trying to like hold it, and you're like arching it. I'm like, this is not as sexy. And then it doesn't work.
It's always the dildos that they provide on set for double dildo as well. That it's like, if you hold it like this, it goes like this. And it just flops over. If you can get a double dildo that's firm enough, you can go butt to butt pretty well. I've done that in cam scenes before. But it's like, when there's that much give in the middle, you're kind of just rocking back and forth with like just the tip in both of you and pretending that you're being penetrated all the way up into your ovaries. Like, it's not. I did this. I did a cam show with my friend Marie a couple years ago, and we didn't have a double dildo handy, so we just kind of went to the store and grabbed the first one that we could. But typically, you know, if you buy them in the store, they're kind of like in the plastic casing. You can't really tell what their consistency is until you pull them out. So we get into the part of the show where we offer double dildo, and it was sad. So we're trying to rock back and forth. It keeps like falling out of either of us. We're just laughing at this point, just trying to get it to stay in one of our vaginas, much less two. We're like, maybe we should just fuck each other with it, like, 'cause it's not. It's so, I don't know. It's funny. What do you prefer as far as girl? Like, are you more of a giver or receiver when it comes to oral?
Oh. I guess it varies so much though. Like, it really depends what kind of mood I'm in, and who the person is.
Yeah, that's true. And the thing with mainstream too, it's why I definitely now prefer, and kind of always have preferred, especially being a cam girl and stuff first, is being able to pick the people that you perform with and shoot with. And in mainstream, you can give a no list, but even if you give like an I wish list, you don't necessarily get those people. And so you sometimes don't even know until you show up on set who you're going to be performing with. And then it's kind of like, well, do you jive from the makeup chair already? Because I've had situations where it's like, you're in makeup, the other performer comes in, or vice versa, and you try to like have a conversation, but they're definitely more interested in their phone than anything that you have to say. And I'm like, I barely know your name, and I'm about to be like face first in your snatch. So can we like have like a little bit of conversation first?
Like, it'd be nice to know like anything, like a color, like where you live, anything.
Or I don't know what you would like me to do to you. Like, I don't want to just know what you don't want me to do to you. Like, tell me what you would like me to do to you. Because like, I'm here for it. I'm here. This could be a 12 to 16-hour day. I want us to both enjoy it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I still remember, so the worst no list situation I ever got put on was me and this girl, we were doing a 3-way scene. And me and her rock up, we're in the makeup chair, and all of a sudden the male talent comes in. She pulls me aside and she's like, baby's on my no list. Like, I refuse to shoot with him. So she's in my ear. And then as soon as I come out, he pulls me aside and is doing the same thing. So every time one of them walked off, the other one would be in my ear about how they hate the other person. And I'm sitting there and I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to have sex with both of you in a situation where I know no one wants to be here.
Like,
and it's uncomfortable.
You both hate each other and I'm right here in the middle. It's like when your parents are fighting.
Yeah, that's what it felt like. Do you know what? I think it was a step-parent scene too, like, just to make it.
Oh my God, that's perfect. Just remember all that shit, like my mom whispering in my ear about my dad and my dad not understanding anything and then just making passive comments about my mom. And I love my parents, but it's a good thing they're not together anymore. But it's definitely that same kind of thing. It's hard even like with having like friends in the industry who you maybe knew them both individually but had no idea of any backstory between them. And then it's like you will maybe just bring up passively like, oh, I hung out or I shot content with so-and-so. Well, let me tell you. And I'm like, I don't want to know. I don't want to know. Don't drag me to this, please. I'm too old for drama. I left that behind on my free camps.
Ignorance is bliss.
Although I guess there have been situations, and not even necessarily with performers having issues with each other, but sometimes the things that you don't necessarily want to hear can help prevent you from having similar situations with other people, whether it's videographers, photographers, talent, any of that kind of stuff. At least it can help you maybe have a more educated understanding of the situation before you enter it.
Yeah.
If you're still going to go through with that anyway and kind of make your own assumptions out of that.
Yeah, and know what you should be looking out for. Mm-hmm. So I know in the States, I felt like everyone was a little more open with other performers and stuff. Mm-hmm. But I found here in Australia, we've been going through a thing at the moment, which I'm finding super problematic for that reason. Okay. So we have obviously some shitty people in the industry, like any industry in the world, they're always going to be there. But what's happening is a couple of like the more established performers have said, if you shoot with this person, you're on anyone that shoots with you is automatically out of the massive shoot circle. And it's like some of these girls, like I watch girls come in and they'll shoot their first like one scene with a guy and then the whole industry will be like, nope, you shot with him, you can't shoot with us. And it's like, how is she supposed to know that?
To know? Yeah, that's pretty messed up. That's not, see, that's one of the things that I've found, especially branching more into different aspects of, I guess, the sex worker, adult entertainer community, is that it can be a community if you find the right people. Mm-hmm. And it's like, it's one of the reasons that I enjoyed basically having this podcast platform is I know that it is predominantly men and of course fans and stuff, and fans of either me or the performers that I have on who listen. However, I know that I've received a few emails from either other performers or different cam models who it's like, I knew you. And I think that this is actually basically a good way to bring sort of a lot of information about the industry out that either maybe they weren't aware of or things that they think could help other people. And it's like, this is, it's a job or business like any other. It's like you said, there's shitty people, no matter where you work, no matter what your job or career is, there's just shitty people. That's the world. But it's like, especially in a job that is focused around your body and sex, like the most intimate things that we're just like, oh, let's put that on display for the world. It's like, you should have people in your corner who care about that.
Yeah.
And I feel like it's definitely difficult, especially if you are a new performer, to kind of know who you can trust or the things that you should be looking for, because especially new performers, it's very much like everyone, especially if there's someone who I think people could potentially think will be very popular, it's very easy for those people to get taken advantage of, because it's like, well, I'm going to hype you up and tell you all the things that you want to hear and tell you how I think that you should do best in a way that will benefit me.
Yeah.
And that's very difficult to know going into it if you don't have like a good support system or a good kind of platform to look at and draw from other people with experiences to share that you could potentially avoid in your own career.
Yeah, and it is important to share those kinds of things, because like there's so much misinformation out there, and it's like you said, there are some really good people out there still, I think. And I found with me, it took me a long time before I could find my circle that I could trust, especially in the States. And I found a lot of things happened in my situation that would be unethical in the workplace that we worked in. And it wasn't until I started talking to like other producers and directors and other performers that I started realizing that the things that people were making me say and do on set weren't really in line with what the guidelines were.
Yeah, and it's easy, especially if you don't know. It's like, well, you think so. It kind of also comes back to like when I first started shooting mainstream, I was very much like, I was kind of using it at the time to take a little bit of a break and a step back from camming. I was having a bad stalker situation going on, problems with my ex at the time and all that. And so I was very much like, oh, I'm a contract performer. Like I want to make sure everybody's happy and make sure that I keep this and blah, blah, because, you know, whatever, I really felt like I needed that. Not realizing that part of the reason that I was chosen as a contract performer in the first place is that I had already built up my brand through doing whatever it was that I was doing on my own and that I had decided to do. So as far as you were talking about like pH differences and stuff like that, so getting back to scissoring, a lot of scissoring, just slapping your vagina around. And even, you know, like some performers don't douche, and that's totally cool, but they also don't necessarily keep
their
themselves
situation
clean.
Yeah, situated.
So not talking like STIs, STDs, whatever, but I'm talking, I got very sensitive little hoo-ha, and I started getting like bacterial, like, I don't know, like yeast infection type thing, like vaginosis or whatever. And it reached the point that it was painful because I was shooting like between 4 to 5 scenes a month, and every single one was like had a scissoring finale. And I was so nervous and afraid at first to even reach out to be like, hey, let's cut back on the scissoring because my vagina doesn't appreciate it.
Yeah.
And so I'd go through all these periods of like, oh my God, my fucking pussy hurts for no reason. I didn't even get off from the scissoring, goddamn it. And then once I kind of made that known that, hey, the scissoring just isn't really working for me, and I think that there are a lot of other cool positions that I can utilize that don't necessarily have to be scissoring, at least for every scene. Maybe once a month, you know, or something like that, or kind of, you know, cheat it a little in a way that we're not super swapping juices all the time.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like there's other ways to get around this. And when that was pitched to like producers and stuff like that, like via my contacts with MindGeek, which were very cool and supportive, like I had no reason to like be nervous of bringing this to them. I just was. And it definitely got to the point with some producers though where they would be like, yeah, we're gonna finish this with scissoring, and I was like, no, like per my conversation with them, like I'm not required to scissor.
Yeah.
And they would not necessarily be like, you have to, but be like, you know, implying backhandedly that I should be, and that that's what they wanted to finish. And many, it was not a majority of producers, by the way, a majority of them were very chill with it. So when I would get that kind of feedback from some producer, I'm like, oh, you're a piece of shit.
Yeah.
Because you know that you don't need this. You know that other people aren't requiring it. And so you're just wanting me to do something that's outside of my comfort zone, something that is negatively affecting my actual fucking body that you don't have to live in. So it's very much like I always...
It's somewhere.
There's a little bug. Anyway. But it's very much something that I definitely reiterate to people all the time, and many guests on here have. It's like, no matter what it is that you're comfortable with doing and whatever it is that you're not, you owe it to yourself to be very steadfast with anyone, because you are not required to do anything on set.
Yeah.
You know, and it's like, and if you are and if you're put into a position where someone is implying that you should, or forcing you to do something that you don't want to do, or basically telling you that you won't get work if you don't, walk. It's going to be so much better for not only your body, but your mental. And one of the huge things, like, especially when this job is so related to our bodies and how we look and how we have sex, basically, it's like there's already so much mental anguish and shit going on in there, because no matter what you do, you're being judged on something. And I know that that's just life and that's just the internet, but especially when it comes to you and your body and your person, it's like that is so easy to take to heart and to get down on yourself for, which is like, if anyone, whether it's like your partner putting you, even if you're not in the industry, if you even have a partner, and I did, who is actively putting you into especially sexual situations that you do not want to be in, go. Because that person does not fucking care about you. They don't care about your mental well-being. They don't care about your physical well-being, except for what your body can do for them. And you should be focused on what you can do for your body and your own mental health. And you should basically be around people who support that, especially in an industry like this or anything involving, you know, sex.
Yeah. See, when I went in to do my, when I started doing boy girl, I was, I think, 25 at the time. So I was substantially older, and I remember getting pushed and pushed and pushed to do things. And if you put your foot in the ground, like, I remember them telling me all this stuff. They're like, you'll never get booked again by this company. You'll never work here. You'll never do this. You'll never do that. And that never happened. I think it's really sad when I see the younger girls come in and they don't realize that they can have boundaries and they can put themselves first before anything, because at the end of the day, if you're not there mentally and in a mentally stable and happy and safe place, it can be a very volatile situation, and it can be very scary.
Yes, it can be terrifying, and then you're just, and then it's like, it's all that thing, like, once you give them an inch, they take a mile. So it's like, if you back down from something that you're already not comfortable with, it's like, well, then they just see you as someone who they can push around the next time and maybe get a little bit more out of you. And eventually it's like people have taken so much of you that you don't feel like you have anything left. And I say that from the experience, not of what this industry has done for me, but something that was very perpetuated by my ex, especially like sexually. And people can say whatever they want about this industry, but all the sexual trauma that I experienced was not from this industry. If anything, it put me in touch with people who were very much like, well, you shouldn't be forced to do the things that you're doing off camera. You shouldn't be put into those situations. And it wasn't until meeting other people who had been through similar things that I was like, oh, okay, I can say no. I can, you know, do those things. And even if I would have situations where even if I said no, like, that, well, then it's a fight. And then it's, you know, what a horrible person you are. And why don't you care about what I need sexually? And it's like, nothing that I ever needed or wanted sexually was ever taken care of. So it's like, at the end of the day, it's like, you just, I say that too much. I'm sorry, guys. I have to make a t-shirt at this point. At the end of the day. Oh my God, I hate myself. But not nearly as much as I used to, but still a little bit. I think a little self-loathing is healthy.
Yeah.
It drives you forward to succeed and be better. But, yeah, so I don't remember where I was going with that. But basically, don't let people fucking push you around, because that's another thing too, is people who consume pornography or content creation, even if you're someone that's, you know, kind of just maybe only you do solo stuff or whatever, don't let fans push you around either, because I've let that happen as well. And let me tell you, like, if you stick to your guns and you know what you enjoy doing, then even if you want to explore those other things down the road, it's you making that decision. And for anyone who's gonna like rain on your fucking parade, there are 50 other people who love whatever it is that you're doing and whatever it is you're putting out. And especially working for companies, most consumers of especially mainstream porn aren't necessarily a fan of the company. They're a fan of the performer. You just happen to be shooting for that company. Companies need you to make the content. You know, people who are sitting on a board of directors aren't going to suddenly start taking it in the ass because, you know, like, they'll find
You
somebody.
said no then.
I know.
Yeah.
Well, I better bend over.
Is that soap on the ground?
Oh, no. Step bro, no. Step exec, no.
The guy in the background, arch your back, arch your back, arch your back.
Come on, arch your back like a real whore. It's not going to happen. They need performers. And for everything that you're not willing to do, there is someone else who that's their fucking thing and they would love to do that. So you don't have to feel obligated to do what you're not comfortable with. And eventually if you reach a point that you want to do that, fine, go do it, try it out. But honestly, one of the best ways that you're going to get the most out of a job in this industry is to do what makes you feel comfortable, because when you're happy and comfortable, that comes through more in your content and to your fans.
I almost got it. Oh, there.
Got
We
it.
got it.
Oh, I didn't. Come on, cut. I think I got it. Anyway.
Yeah, so we're back.
So anyway,
Serious again.
we've returned to this very serious conversation. But it's basically like, shooting for mainstream is great. And whatever company that is, especially some company that is more well-known, is great for advertising yourself to an audience that might not have otherwise known about you. But you don't need the companies. As soon as you start getting the fan base, it's like, make your own content. Shoot with the performers you want to shoot with. Shoot with the videographers that you want to shoot with. Get a new fucking iPhone, because they're absolutely amazing, and shoot your own content from home if you want to, because it's like, you don't need anyone else. If you have content that is available to your fans, they will want to get it from you more than they'll want to get it from a company. Especially like, it's one of those things too, when you shoot for a company, it's great. It's good promotion and it can be a great experience and it's good to have those connections, but you get paid once. You never see anything. It's not like the old days of porn. You get fucking royalties for doing a movie. It's not like that. You get a one-time fee and you never see any more money from it again. It's not like 5 years down the road you can be like, hey, can I start selling this scene on my OnlyFans? No, it's theirs forever. So you basically got paid for some advertising of yourself. So it's like, definitely utilize those connections you make on set. Like, I've even employed videographers, or photographers from set to shoot content for me, off set. And that's great. And it's good to have those connections and to meet other performers that way. But long past, I think, is the idea. And I think that COVID season kind of proved to a lot of people, especially with platforms like OnlyFans or Loyal Fans or Fansly or whatever platform that you're on, that you do have the ability to actually draw from your fan base, and you don't necessarily need those companies, especially all the time, and I think that if that should prove to anyone, that mainstream needs you more than you need them, so don't let them trample on you, it's not worth it.
Yeah, I agree.
How do you find different, so shooting in Australia versus in the States, and as far as acceptance goes? Because I've talked to a few content creators or performers here who have basically said that they feel like they can't kind of talk about what it is that they do, or that it's very not accepting. I even have a friend who teaches pole classes and stuff, and even that is frowned upon, it's bad juju, and it's just she's not even stripping, it's just pole dancing, and
people I think it really depends on where in Australia you live. As a whole, I feel everyone's a lot more relaxed. In the Gold Coast, tell everyone, but if you went to Sydney or any other city, I would be hesitant to bring that up to someone out of the blue.
It's interesting. I feel like people, especially, probably because I've mostly only experienced the States, are very much we're so demonized and blah, 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 blah. But I feel like, especially after talking to performers from other parts of the world, is that we have it so fucking good in the States compared to anything else. And that it's one of the things about this job too is that it's people forget. It's no matter what it is that you're doing in life, no matter what it is that you wear or the things that you say, there's always going to be people who don't fucking like you. That's just how it is. But if this job was so beloved, right, you wouldn't make as much money doing it as fucking and everybody would do it.
Yeah.
And then it's like an oversaturation. It's like, it's one of those things that because it is a little more niche and it's definitely not for everybody, there's definitely like a benefit to that because there isn't an oversaturation in the market, and it is something that is kind of more taboo. So it's behind the scenes. So it's kind of like, I don't know. I feel like that kind of also can put people in like this victim mindset, like just assuming that everybody hates you based on the job that you have. It's like, well, there's always going to be people that hate you based on whatever job it is that you have, but especially something that you're taking off your clothes, you're going to get hate for it. You should know that. You should know that going into it.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't know.
But yeah, I found that in the States when I was out there was 10 times more support. So we had like the pineapple, what's it called?
Yeah, I've heard that. I know what you're talking about. Pineapple. Fuck. It's basically like a mental health like reach out program, like Pineapple Support or something like that.
Yeah.
I'll probably try to look it up and give it to David if he reminds me. But it's if you search like pineapple sex workers, I'm sure something will come up. Well, maybe that will be the wife swap thing because I think pineapple is also for swingers.
Yeah.
But I think that there is definitely a decent network of people, especially in the industry, who do want to be able to help performers kind of recognize that it's like, well, you don't have to do it all alone. You don't have to shoulder all of, whatever hate it is that you're getting or whatever pressure that you're getting from other people. Like there are other people who have experienced that and who do want to help you and who do want to help like prop you up, which is definitely cool to have because mental health is definitely a problem everywhere and in every industry from everybody that I've talked to. But once again, it's a job about your body and about sex and intimate acts and all that kind of stuff. So of course there's going to be a lot more judgment and a lot more self-internalization of any sort of hate that you get when it's based off of you and not just like, how well you do your desk job. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
So as far as like work that's outside of the industry, have you had like other jobs before you did that?
So between doing sex work, I've definitely taken breaks. I was a PA.
Oh, really?
I did when they were doing Hollywood movies out here because we film a lot. I was living on the Gold Coast and I got a PA job for 3 months.
Oh, cool.
So much fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like a
so
lot of work. Yeah, for sure. Like there's
lot.
even so much that goes into just like a porn set day where you have to pack in and pack out in one day that I can't even imagine for like an actual like film or TV series or something like that. Oh my God.
Yeah. It was the longest. I don't remember ever having 5 minutes to myself for those 3 months. I just remember it was always like something.
Yeah. But I bet that actually helped you kind of when it comes to the job that you're in now, kind of knowing how things on set run and should run, and even probably as far as, do you do a lot of your own content creation, you said, as well, like on your own?
Yeah, well, I actually, so I've got a little bit of a background in production. So when I was younger, I was in church and I was always trained with a production team. So now I've been able to like put that over to my content, which has been good.
Okay, I'm curious. You were in church.
I was.
And you were trained with the production team. What kind of productions does church put on? Because I was also grew up in church. I'm not in church anymore. Are you in church anymore?
No.
Okay, well, Jesus loves porn stars too.
Do you know, it's actually funny. So my old church, since I've become Kiara, when I went over to the States, they started sending me personalized. So I got told when I first started sex work I wasn't allowed back. And then now I get personalized invites to events and they're like, we'll pay for your ticket. And I'm like, I don't really know if I want to like do that now.
Wait. So as Kiara Edwards.
Yeah, and then they're like,
yeah,
and they go, don't worry, we've got a hoe table. And I'm like, I don't really want to be like, all the whores are here. All the whores, Jesus, here they are. No.
You know, Jesus loved whores too. He was down with the prostitutes. He was down with everybody, man. Jesus loves the sinners. Come sin with me. Laura, is the desert hot?
As hell.
As hell. Some may feel run down
in the heat of summer. Do you ever feel run down?
Yeah, every day.
Do you ever feel like you just don't want to get out of bed?
I mean, sometimes.
Like, it's difficult.
It's that hot. You're miserable.
You stopped drinking coffee. Laura, where will you get your energy? How will you keep your skin?
It's been hard.
How will you keep your skin so dewy and beautiful?
It's hard. It's really hard. I got to drink a lot of water.
You have to drink so much water, and then you have to pee
Always.
all the time.
I'm running to the bathroom like
constantly.
Yeah.
You're always peeing. But you never feel fully hydrated.
Never. With this heat, how can you
How do you do it? Laura, I have good news for you. Did you know that 1 stick of liquid IV, when dissolved in 16 ounces of water, hydrates better and faster than water alone?
Damn.
Would you like to try some liquid IV?
I would, actually.
Which flavor would you like? They have provided us pina colada.
Ooh.
They have golden cherry. Highly recommend, one of my personal favorites.
That sounds good.
They have acai berry. And also passion fruit, which I have already begun using, as well as the golden cherry.
Damn. Let's do the golden cherry. That sounds really good.
Open the package, Laura. Do you like the packaging?
I love it.
It's really my favorite color. I really like it.
This is great. I mean, and it's slim, so you can just stack your
You can
cabinets.
just slide it right in. Slide it right in with liquid IV.
All right, let's do this.
I don't know. All right.
So the whole thing, right?
Yeah, the whole thing.
Yeah.
And luckily for us, I have a spoon. So that
Luckily.
what I prefer to do is to put it in my blender bottle and just that's how I start my mornings, actually, because I am always dehydrated. I do it before I even have my coffee in the morning. True story, literally every morning here in Vegas, especially during the summer. So Laura, let me know what you think of golden cherry.
Ooh, nice.
It's become my personal favorite.
Thanks. Cheers, everyone. Dude, that is good.
I know.
That is really good. And it's not sweet, but it has a good flavor. You could definitely taste the cherry in that. That's
so good. So highly recommend golden cherry.
delicious.
Now, if you guys go to liquidiv.com and use code TWND at checkout, you will save. You will save.
Drum roll.
Hi, this is David with a quick interruption real quickly. Liquid IV, still on, still great, still doing its thing. Same code, TWND, all that stuff, but save 15% when you use the code TWND podcast.
You might be dehydrated. You might be. You'll never know unless you try. So, Laura, can we tell them a little bit more about Liquid IV?
Yeah, I would love to.
I mean, you'd never heard of it before, but you just have these cards here that are just so useful for our visual viewers. So, Liquid IV has 3 times the electrolytes of traditional sports drinks, which is just electrolytes. It's what plants crave. All right.
Yep.
What else? Vitamins. B3, B5, B6, B12, all of the best Bs, and vitamin C, which you need because people be getting sick. So don't get sick. Use vitamins.
Yeah.
I mean, you might still get sick, but you might get sick less. You might. All right. It's non-GMO. It's free from gluten. Oh, gluten's so scary. Dairy, which is fantastic because why would you mix dairy
With water.
with water? It's also great for those who are lactose intolerant like me. And, you can confidently say that the dairy that is lacking from Liquid IV sticks is just tremendously saving for your butthole. And I know that you guys relate. Liquid IV has also donated. They are trying to change the world, guys. They're trying to change the world. They're trying to hydrate the world. They have donated over 20 million servings globally. That's like so many more than 2 million.
We love
so
you.
many more. It's 20 million. That's crazy. So
Thank you, Liquid Ivy.
if you guys want to experience better hydration today, then you should go to liquidiv.com and you
Again, save 15% off on all the stuff, all the flavors, like pineapple. Pineapple sounds good. I like the watermelon. The watermelon's great. If you don't like watermelon, I don't know what's wrong with you.
Whoa, okay.
Yeah.
But okay, so sorry, productions, because
Oh, yeah.
I was in like choir and stuff like that, but Jesus loves me this I know for the Bible tells me. Anyway, but as far as productions, what did that look like?
So it was pretty hopeless at everything. But because I was small and like all I wore was black at that point, and I would like have the little roving camera, and it's like this huge, like this was 15 years ago, so it was this huge big camera that like I could barely hold up.
It's like
and
your
I'm,
entire body weight.
wobbling along, and I'm like taking photos.
That's amazing. Was it like was it like a televised church thing?
Some
or-
of them, yeah. So I did some big events. I think the biggest I did was about 4,000 people.
Oh wow.
Yeah, I got really lucky.
That's
Yeah.
that's crazy.
Yeah.
So okay, you were like all black. Were you very like emo goth in high school too? Girl, emo goth Christian girls. Here we are. Oh my god, that's funny. I actually like well before I was ever taking photos of myself nude, I was very much in the mindset of like I'm going to be a photographer and or do something with film. So that's I remember like when I was younger, I had the option to get either like a cell phone for a birthday or a digital camera. And I was like, digital camera. I don't have fucking friends who I'm gonna call on a cell phone. And I would do like these horrible, they are well and truly deleted from the internet by this point. Trust me, when I started in this industry, I scrubbed
You're
everything
like,
that I could ever find.
"Why?"
But I would make like my own music videos to Evanescence songs.
Stop. I need to see these now. I'm like,
They're gone. I had them on a hard drive at one point, but I think it's over the years. Maybe there's a hard drive with them floating around somewhere.
someone
I
will,
don't
like,
have.
someone will find one day and they'll be like, "What's this?"
Yeah.
And it's just gonna be you. Like,
It was like when I wasn't allowed to wear makeup, and I didn't really want to. But for productions, of course, you have to wear makeup. So I would steal my mom's like eyeliner, and I'm talking, I look like a fucking raccoon for all of these. Just like the thickest black eyeliner, like just lip syncing to frickin' all these songs and just really feeling them because I knew what pain was. I didn't fucking have any idea until my 20s, let me tell you. Like, oh my god.
I remember we used to do like funniest home video ones.
Oh my god.
I was when I was young, I've always been a tomboy, so I'm always like,
Yes.
play footy, like, let's go.
Girl, I love you. I'm so in love with you right now. Sorry, Laura, someone new. Sorry.
We can share. And we used to tie people, like, I used to love knots. Okay, so I've never done shibari, but I feel like that's the next. Is it shibari?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. I was like, am I thinking of the
Nope,
place
you
where they
are.
flick the food at you? You tie the knots.
I think that's
It's one of
hibachi.
them.
But you know what would be really fun is to get you all done up in shibari and then have a hibachi person. You have to catch it, but while you're tied up,
That'd be so funny.
I think we need to make this happen.
So do I.
Oh my god, the mental image. Alright, so sorry, you're into knots.
So I used to tie my sisters up, and then we'd jump out of trees.
Tied up.
Yeah.
Okay.
And film it.
To just see what
I don't know. I was like, that harness looks. I used to watch videos online, and I'd be like, those harnesses look easy to make, and I used
Yeah, I could
to
just make-
makeshift them.
Oh wow.
And to be fair, never had an accident.
Well, that's good.
My sister fell out once without it attached.
Oh yeah.
So, but other than that, We got very lucky.
That's crazy. I don't know what was wrong with me when I was a kid, but like I felt like I was a monkey. Like I would just go and ride my bike or rollerblade to like the local parks, which in Michigan I was like suburbs, but not really like rural. How do you say that? Rural? I hate that word. Rural suburbs. I'd go out and just like climb the tallest trees, just see how far I could get up. And I'm surprised that I'm not dead now, to be honest, because I remember once getting up to the very top of this tree and the wind starts blowing. And so the trunk is going like this as I'm up there. I'm like, how the fuck am I going to get down from this? Like all that kind of stuff. But I don't know. Like, were you very like, I know that things are so much different now. And how old are you?
28.
28. Okay, so more closer to my age than some people that I talk to, because sometimes I'm like, back in the day when we were children, they're like, I'm 22. I was like, oh God, okay. Yeah. I just turned 31, so
happy birthday.
Thank you. But were you kind of, I guess, kind of unparented? Because I feel like looking back, like I was homeschooled as well, but my mom didn't really school us. I mean, I love my mom, but she didn't want to homeschool us, and so it was kind of like, here's the books, learn, bye.
Yeah.
And so I could just go out and just be gone all day. No one would have any freaking idea what I was up to or the things that I was doing. Like, was that kind of your situation, or were you
they were like
helicopter parents?
Yeah. So my parents, they were very strict on everything. So I was brought up unvaccinated, mostly vegan. We never had dairy.
Well, they call those like the crunchy granola parents now or something like that. Yeah, like.
Yeah, so we didn't even have television. We didn't have a microwave, nothing. It was very, I think that's why we got in so much trouble as kids. Because my parents would be like, my mum used to work from home, so she'd just go into her little working zone and we'd just run amok.
Yeah.
Jump out of trees.
Well, see, that's the thing is like, so my parents, growing up religious, they were very strict too, like on the surface, but it was only strict if something was found out, because it's like, it's like there were all these, you must do things this way and it must be this way and these are the rules to follow, but it's like, where were they for the most part to see if you were jumping out of trees or like any of the other kind of random shit that I ended up doing or anything. And it's like, well, it's not illegal unless you get caught. Like, when I was a kid, I had a girlfriend and we were super into like the whole Nancy Drew Hardy Boys thing. We convinced ourselves that this evil old lady in the neighborhood had somebody upstairs in her house because there was this like weird glow. I think I might have told this on the podcast before in a very early episode, but Kiara's never heard it, so listen again. And there was this weird glow from the upstairs room, and she would just scream at all the children in the neighborhood. Like, her house, where we were set up, there wasn't really fences for the most part, so you could kind of cut through her yard to get to the local school, which had like an open playground and stuff like that. And she would scream at anyone who ever like passed through her yard. So when you're a kid, you're like, she's evil, there's something wrong with her. And we convinced ourselves that there was this mystery to solve. And we broke into her house.
Oh, no.
And
what was the light? I would need to know now.
It was an aquarium. Like,
did you save the fish?
It was this thing like, so, and we had watched her, like we were staking it out, like she left, right? So we get into the house, we're like looking through stuff, but we didn't realize that she, like, I guess someone from her family was over, but they heard someone come in the house, so they ended up hiding in one of the rooms thinking
that it was
we were like 8, 9, like, it, what are we gonna do? But they were terrified, so they called the police ended up showing up to my mom's house hours later after we had like realized it's an aquarium, and we're like, all right, let's get the fuck out of here and go back home. But she had watched us, I guess, from whatever room she was in, run this direction and recognized us from the neighborhood, so we got this very firm talking to. Like, but it's all that kind of stuff. And then it's like, my mom of course flipped out, but it's like, well, if you had known where I was, it probably wouldn't have happened. Like, I don't know, but I think there's something to that as well, where it's kind of like, despite the rules, you go and you're still making your own way, and there's some sort of kind of resilience and self-sufficiency to kind of be made from that. You know, it's sometimes I go around the shops now and I see kids who are like 10 years old and they are being pushed around by their parents in fucking strollers. I was like, by the time I was walking, they were stroller pushing.
It was like, okay, now you got to make dinner for yourself, and now you got to fucking do everything, but it has to be by our guidelines. And like the one time we catch you not following them.
Yeah, I taught myself to cook because my mom wanted breakfast one of the mornings that she was sick, and my brother was sick when I was a kid, and I had to be like 7 making eggs on the open fire stove. Like nothing happened, but it's like it's all that kind of little shit, and it's all like little learning experiences to learn to kind of like be self-sufficient. Like I can't imagine if I was 10 years old being pushed around in a fucking stroller where I would be now. Like probably still living with that.
Yeah.
Like I think there has to be like some adversity in life, and I see all this stuff now too of like, you know, people kind of railing back against the what doesn't kill you makes you stronger thing. Like, well, you shouldn't have to suffer. And it's like, there is always going to be suffering in some aspect of life. And if you don't learn how to deal with it when you're young, how the fuck are you going to manage it when you're a fully developed adult?
100%. And that's what life is like. And I think we hold ourselves accountable so much now, and especially the internet. Like what you could say 10 years ago, you couldn't say now. And people are holding themselves, like people will bring stuff up and you're like,
Yeah.
that person was a completely different human back then. It was a different kind of life back then.
Yeah.
Like we're forever making mistakes and growing and changing. And that's how we become the person we're meant to be at the end of the day.
Exactly. And it's like, and if you can't like recognize that something was bad, so say that you are the same person that you were 10 years ago. Well, okay, like I think in most instances, you're a piece of shit because there has to always be room for growth, and you have to be a person that's basically like has the ability to recognize things in yourself that maybe aren't that great. Like none of us are fucking perfect. I think that was one of the biggest things with therapy for me. I believe it was like I don't know if you're a fan of comedians and stuff, but I love Taylor Tomlinson, and I believe it's something similar, don't quote me or whatever, but it's basically like therapy isn't about you going to someone and them telling you what a piece of shit you are. Therapy is going to someone and you telling them what a piece of shit you are. And it's kind of like having this ability to recognize the things in yourself that do need change and do need changing, and like things and aspects of yourself that you don't like that maybe you aren't addressing in ways that are positive for growth, you know, because nobody is perfect. Like literally zero person is perfect. You can make incredible changes to your life and you can learn so many things, but if you kind of like stop at a point that you're like, well, I'm great, there's nothing wrong with me, then you're a fucking narcissist. So,
100%. And you're forever growing and changing. I remember, so when I was 18, I got engaged. Maybe it was just before I turned 18. And we were very involved with the church at the time. So we did all of like the couple counseling thing before they'd approve you to get married.
Okay.
And I remember a pastor turning around to us and saying, you should look at multiple different people from your life and pick one trait out of all of them that you like and adopt that onto yourself rather than picking one person to idolize, because you're going to get their shit, whereas you should be creating your own.
Yeah, for sure. And it's definitely easy like to pick up things like from childhood. And I have people tell me, you know, sometimes all the time, or will leave comments on podcast episodes where it's like, especially ones where I do talk about therapy or mental health and all that, well, I am the way I am and that's not going to change at this point, I'm too old. It's like, if that is your mindset, that is so detrimental to your life. It's not a good thing, because you know you're not dead yet. If that's your mentality, I'm this way and I can't ever change, then you might as well just die. Because it's like people always say that life is short, but I don't believe that. Like, life is so short. Life is fucking long, and you only get one. Unless, you know, you believe you come back as a cow or whatever people believe with whatever different religion that you have. That's totally fine, or you go to heaven or whatever. Not shitting on religion. I just don't personally have it. So in my, you know, aspect, or say that you even believe in heaven, right? That eventually you go to this place where you live in utopian bliss forever. that's not your life here. And if that is what you believe, then shouldn't you try to make the life that you currently have as valuable to you and to the other people around you as possible while you are here? Because, you know, barring something like, oh, you know, people that do unfortunately die before people think that they should or before they expect to, that's horrible and that's tragic. But you should also be able to look at those instances and be like, well, they didn't expect that to end. Like, shouldn't I be trying to live my life to the absolute fullest that I can and be the best possible version of myself that I can, and kind of try to help other people with that I care about, or even help myself to a point where I feel like I'm comfortable talking about these things with other people or sharing the things that I've learned with other people. Because, you know, no matter how much we learn or how much we grow, we're still not perfect. And people think often, I think, that it's like, well, I'm miserable now, so I just have to find a way to like make myself happy and then I'll be fine. But life isn't heaven. Humans aren't meant to just live in this utopic state of bliss forever. And somebody that's happy all the fucking time, I don't trust that person, because they're just lying to themselves. Like, you're never going to be happy all the time. Life is about the pursuit of happiness, because there are moments in our life that make us happy. There are moments and things that we do and accomplish and people that we meet that we find to be rewarding. But without any adversity and without anything negative, nothing would be any different. There would be no appreciation for those good things or those amazing interactions or things like that, you know?
You'd need the contrast to be able to, without the shit, you can't see the good.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. No, it's so true. And, you know, I used to just think that as well, like, you know, oh, I'm depressed. Here are all these horrible things in my life that I can't change and that will never change. And this will just be what everything is forever. But it's not that way. My life is completely different. My entire outlook on life is completely different than it was even just 3 years ago, when I spent a majority of my 20s wanting to unalive myself, like, and trying a few times. So it's like that feeling doesn't last forever. And no matter how negative you're feeling, no matter how dark, everyone else has felt that at some point. And that's something that you can't necessarily understand or see when you're in that place. But it was something that I also was told, like, in therapy by my therapist. It's like, you know, I would rant about all these things about how I was feeling and I don't even know how to change it. And she's like, well, you don't necessarily know how to change it. And she's like, and everybody else, everyone you know, has, maybe not to this level, maybe not this exact way, but they have felt this way.
Yeah.
And just because you don't see it, especially with like social media being as prevalent as it is, it's like people
Lie.
like to put out the best version of themselves for the world, because everyone is selling something, especially online. Everyone is selling something, even trying to sell it to theirself, to themselves, that they're happy, even if they're not, you know. We have to do that. It's like, you know, there are days like I'm on OnlyFans and I'm messaging people I don't want to fucking be doing, because I have so much shit going on and I feel like shit. But I'm not going to be like, hey, person who came to be entertained by me, let me tell you about how horrible I'm feeling today. It's like, no, you're there to entertain. So sometimes you do have to just fake it till you make it, you know? Like, no, I don't want to hear about your cock right now, but I'm going to tell you how much I love it, because it's like, and it's not like, oh, I hate the job and I hate that, but it's still, at the end of the day, a job, and you don't enjoy it every day. You can enjoy even parts of every day, but there are days where you don't feel up to it. And I've had those days on set too, but you're acting. You still have to put in the effort. You still have to perform. And I do love the job most of the time, but there are days that my personal life can affect me in ways that I don't necessarily want to be doing it, but I still do it, because you just have to keep pushing forward, because life is long.
Yeah. I think for me, my self-discovery and happiness and like becoming a better version of me in my 20s, early 20s, I was so concerned about what everyone else around me was doing and thinking. And I was
What do
like,
they think of me?
Yeah, I'm like, if I get up there and sing karaoke, like, they're going to think I'm shit. They're going to think this, they're going to think that. And then I got to the point where I'm like, everyone's so caught up on what everyone else thinks about themselves.
But
They
they're
don't
not
really
thinking
give a
about
fuck.
you.
Yeah.
Like, I used to, same thing. It's like you go into a situation, you have a conversation with someone, and then I would leave it and be like, oh my God, I hope I said the right thing. Like, and I would be obsessing about that conversation or interaction, even if however small or however big, I obsessed about it. And then it was like reaching a point where it's like, that other person probably isn't even thinking about this conversation anymore. And if they are, they could be having the same fucking dialogue that you are right now, wondering how you perceive them, or wondering, you know, if they said the right things or whatever. Like, because for the most part, we're all so just naturally self-absorbed and thinking about ourselves, you know, and it takes effort to not think about yourself, because it's almost kind of like a self-preservation thing, I think, you know, but that is such an unhealthy rabbit hole to fall down, because once you can realize that for the most part, nobody is thinking of you, it's like, well, then you can kind of focus your attention to thinking about yourself in a positive way, to thinking about, you know, well, not necessarily everything that went wrong in that interaction, but all the other shit that you have going on that you should be focusing on or thinking about, or how to, you know, bring yourself out of that pit, that like never ending cycle of just like self-deprecation. Like, you don't have to think that you're the shit all the time, but, you know, thinking that you are shit all the time is not helpful either, you know? And everybody's shit a little bit.
I feel like so many people could take so much from learning to just do the things. And I remember even with sexuality and stuff like that, we were always taught we weren't allowed to do anal. My parents, like my mom drilled that into us as kids. She's like, you're never allowed to have anal. I'm like, oh. But, and like, as I've gotten older, I've realized to just do my own thing, and like you sit in it and you enjoy it, and like the people that really care about you as a person will be there for you at the end of the day.
Yeah.
And like if you're with someone and you want to do all this fun stuff and they're not there, like, or they're not at that space, then you can go do that. You don't need to get exception from your friends. And when I first came into porn, a lot of my friends were church orientated, and they still are to this day. I've got a lot of friends that are very high up in churches across Australia. And I always thought they were going to be the first people that were like, fuck you, like, no, like, we can't be friends with you anymore. And they invite me to Christmas every year, and the people that are meant to stay in your life and the people that truly care about you and your happiness will support you regardless of the decisions you make and the paths that you want to take.
Yeah. That's very true, because, you know, it's one of those things too where it's like nothing in life is permanent. Like, and that's one of the whole things about like change and why change is important, because like it's like if something doesn't grow, that means it's dying, you know? And so while not every single person is going to be a permanent fixture in your life, they were at your life in a time that you needed them to be. For whatever reason that was, whether it was a huge fucking life lesson or whether it was to help you through that time. And those people are also on their own path. So they experience their own changes. They experience all that stuff. And maybe that causes you to go your separate ways. But during the time that they were in your life, that was where you needed to be. And that was where they needed to be. And you both benefited from each other in one way or another, whether you look back on it down the road and realize what that benefit was, or whether you can see it at the time. You know, everybody comes to a certain place for a certain reason.
Yeah. I remember when I was reflecting on an earlier relationship, and I was sort of in the same sort of, like, I was sitting there and I was going, it's like, all this is my fault, blah, 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 blah. And then you sort of sit back and like, it was a really shitty end to a relationship. And I could have been that person that's like, fuck my ex, like, what a piece of shit. But I'm like, no, I needed to learn that life lesson so I could better myself as a human and know what to look out for next time. So I'm not in as bad a situation or a worse situation.
Yes, exactly. And it's like, and it comes down to that taking personal responsibility as well, because I've said this in regards to my ex, because for everything that I could say or air out, like, I don't feel the need to do that for everything. I mean, I talk as openly as I can about that situation, especially on this podcast and with other performers or people that I can see going through similar situations, because I think that it is highly beneficial to talk about those things and for people to realize that they aren't necessarily alone in their current situation. But I also went into therapy with that mindset of, you know, this person and all these shitty things that they've done to me and all this abuse and trauma that I've experienced is the reason why I hate myself. But I hated myself before I got into that relationship, which I didn't realize until walking through therapy and unlocking a bunch of things that my brain repressed. So it's one of those things where I've forgiven that person. I no longer blame that person for everything that happened to me or how I am, because it was still my responsibility to care about myself enough to leave that situation earlier, or to address things, or to stand up for myself. And so those are life lessons that I had to learn that have now put me into a much more fortunate position to be able to recognize those things in other people, and to realize things that I should be avoiding, or to not overstretch myself and throw everything I have into a person because I want them to reciprocate it, because if they're going to reciprocate it, they just are. And trust is something that is earned, which was something I had to learn. You shouldn't just trust everybody. Not everybody is here for you, you know what I mean? But that's all that life is like a big series of lessons, and it's kind of what we choose to do with those lessons that determines kind of our position in life, I think.
And what shapes us.
Yes.
I think it's really important to grow, and it really is important, I guess, to be able to look back, and even if you feel like you're a victim in the situation, or like you feel like it was out of your control, to be able to pick up on those warning signs and like know for future. And like even now, like with your current partner, would you guys have been successful if you didn't have all those previous life lessons?
Yeah, exactly. And I think that I recommend that everybody try therapy if you've had any of these kind of negative feelings or doubts or past relationships, because, you know, it's not necessarily that everything is your fault. There are many people who contribute to the way that you are and the way that you perceive yourself, but it's up to you to care about yourself enough to kind of do something with that. So, but you know, to anybody who's listening and who feels like life is dark and it's going to be this darkness forever, just remember that episode with the float tank. The darkness doesn't last forever. Eventually there's light, and eventually things change, but it's up to you to kind of, like I said, once again, but care about yourself enough to be like, what can I do to make those changes for the future? So
I do a little bit of outreach work here in Australia. So if there's like a sex worker or something that is going through a really rough time, we'll do like check-ins on them and stuff like that.
good.
And I think when you're in that really dark place, because 99.9% of people get there, I think we're always sitting there going, this is the end goal. And it's like, sometimes you need to sit in that moment and be like, I'm getting anxiety and that's okay. I'm sad and that's okay. There's a reason for that.
You have to feel your feelings. It's not like, oh, I need to escape these feelings, because you can't escape your own mind. You know, I've gotten this from some people, like, everything's bad, I just want to run. It's like, you can't run from yourself because you're stuck with yourself. So sometimes you have to sit there, you have to cry, you have to feel those feelings, and you have to realize that eventually that will change. And how you feel in this exact moment or this stretch of time is not something that's going to last forever, because I spent nearly a decade thinking that exact same thing, and I'm a completely different person than I was. It feels like I look at how I looked at myself and I looked at life in general during that time period, and I'm like, that's not even me. That's like somebody else.
Yeah.
You know?
Somebody that you used to know.
Yeah, someone I used to know. This has been great though. Yeah. But I think that we want to have some fun and make some more content for you guys. I don't know about you, but I need more coffee. So would you like to tell everybody where they can find you?
So you can find me on Instagram, Kiara Edwards XX. Twitter's Kiara Edwards XXO. I'm on the hub. And OnlyFans is Kiara Edwards XO.
Amazing. So give her a follow. She's absolutely fantastic. And we're going to go make some content that you guys can find on both of our OnlyFans. Thank you guys for listening. Share with a friend. Share with a performer. Like, honestly, I would love to be able to, you know, basically share the knowledge of other performers, the knowledge that I have, and just everything with everyone from this industry, inside and and outside of it as well. So make sure that you guys leave your comments on YouTube if you're watching for the algorithm, and leave your voice messages at anchor.fm/TWND. Email submissions at twndpodcast@gmail.com. And I'll see you next week.
Bye.
That was awesome.
Perfect.
Goodbye, Jason.